Welcome back to the show. It's the Week in Review. Oh my goodness, we got a special one today. Somebody roll that beautiful intro.
Digital Perspectives with Brad Kimes. Come on in.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the show. It's private equity. It's linked to your best access to private equity on the planet right here. Look, there's all kinds of stuff available on that platform, and it is the leading companies in every growth sector of the economy right now. You have the opportunity to get some too, but all you have to do is click the link underneath the video to get started. It's a remarkable opportunity, whether it's Ripple, whether it's Uphold, whether it's AI, whether you want robotics, they got it. So make sure you click the link before it's gone and get it. Now let's get started with our amazing guest this week. It's Alan Staple from the Staple Crew. Alan, how you doing this morning?
Just fantastic, Brad. Just couldn't be better. It's
Yeah,
a great day here around.
Yeah, well, I love it. That is awesome. And it's a great day because you're with us. And we're always happy to have a chance to sit down with you. Shout out to DAI, who's the GOAT. We were just having a conversation offline. Your wife laid it down. I've laid it down. You laid it down. You know, the guy is the GOAT in the space. I just got to tip my hat to him. He's done so much for me. Dear friend of mine. And everybody gets it, right? You just get this dude's energy. It's just a remarkable energy. And so is your energy too, Alan. So I look forward to the day we get all of us together. We're going to have a hell of a chat. We'll want to record that one.
We will too, yeah. It'll be a day, fine day in the future. He's a man of, what I really understand about him is that truth and honesty. It's almost like your father figure or a brother or somebody that you can just, well, I'm having kind of a bad day. I want to hear reality. I hear all this other fluff over here. I want somebody to maybe tell me not what I want to hear all the time, but it's his view and the way he sees it, and it's a way that you can jump on board with because it makes sense.
Yeah,
it just makes sense.
Question.
Yeah.
And speaking of some other things that are making sense, we've got a lot that is going on here in a very, very short window of time, Alan. I mean, my goodness, we have Bitcoin Nashville. We got bonds being tokenized. And man, where do you want to start with all of this?
Let's just start with I told you so. How about that one? One of my favorite places to go. You know what, Brad, as you know, most of us get a lot of stuff wrong in this business.
That's right.
I mean, we're out there and we're trying to do a big, you're doing, I don't even know how you do all the shows you do. I mean, wow, that's amazing. When you tell me that you work 12 to 16 hours a day, I know it to be real.
Oh,
There's no way you could do. Yeah, no way you could do what you do. The thing about 3 years ago, it's kind of really that was the one video that put me on the map. And it was about my buddy Bob. And Bob was a market maker. Okay. And the market maker Bob video, I'm cruising along. I've had about 1,000 views or something like that. And then I get so excited because I get off the phone with Bob and because Bob's telling me all this stuff. He didn't even know what Ripple was. In fact, in the video, you can hear it. He thought it was a wine company, right? And he's just like, well, what do you know about Ripple? What do you about this XRP thing? What's good? And I'm listening to this man who is one of the largest bond traders, okay, in the U.S. And he creates all the liquidity for the treasuries. And I'm like, Ripple's knocking on this man's door. That's all I could think. Ripple's knocking on this man's door. And it just rang through my head. And when you get off the phone and something like that, you go straight up to your wife and you're just like talking a million miles a minute, right? And she's looking at you like, what are you okay, honey? Well, what have you been into the sauce or what's the matter with you? And I'm like, well, I can't talk to her. So I got to talk to the world. And I'm like, going to call all my XRP buddies. And I'm like, damn it, I'm just going to shoot it live. So I walked around the property and I just let it fly what the conversation essentially that he and I had. And that was exactly 3 years ago, almost to the day.
Wow.
And now look at where we're at. Now, you cannot believe the hate mail I got. By the way, that thing went viral. I think it went 75,000 views or something crazy in a week. DAI did a show on it. It was a bunch of people did it. You may have done a show at it.
I
I don't
covered
know.
it.
There was people hating on me. There was people, you have no idea what you're talking about. The U.S. government's never going to use crypto. That's just not going to happen in our lifetime. Bond market is the most old stinky money, and there's no way they're going to use your flim-flam little new Ponzi scheme of a coin. The hate mail I got, it was unbelievable. And I'm sitting there and I'm laughing at all of it because Bob doesn't know anything about crypto.
Right.
Bob knows bond market.
Right.
And Bob knows who's walking through his door in the next week. And boy, did they. And everybody called me out. Even when I went to the XRP show 2 years ago, people were coming up, yeah, how about that whole bond thing you said was going to happen? And then today, and you know what, Brad, I get a lot of stuff wrong. We
So do
all
I.
get a
So
lot of
do I.
stuff
We're
wrong.
speculating, man.
Yeah.
We're speculative
That's
investors.
it.
That's what we're here for.
Right. I knew that wasn't wrong. I didn't know whether it would be adopted this fast. 3 years in the bond market is quick. So when this finally goes public with this Eden and the rest of it coming out and all this treasury liquidity that's coming, it's a mind-boggling. If you just look at what happened with Cantor Fitzgerald over the weekend too, in Nashville, that's what the man said. I'm going to put $2 billion into this. And when that's used up, I got another 2 billion waiting.
Yeah.
And people that don't know anything about Cantor, who they are is essentially a main line. If you're on an IV, he's the main line and the needle to the patient, right? And the liquidity is the liquid. And that's directly from the Fed. That's how direct connection we're talking about here.
Yeah.
Short of the Fed coming out and saying, hey, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and buy crypto. Well, the Fed isn't going to do that because they don't need to buy crypto.
Yeah.
But that's how far we've come. And I don't know. I know it seems like a long time, but that's really quick for the financials markets.
Well,
it's an amazing time to be alive.
It is an amazing
Really.
time to be alive, Alan. You're absolutely right. And, to just bring that all together that you just said here. So we have the Open Eden project, which is going to be tokenizing these T-bills and working in conjunction with Ripple. This is enormous, as you've said. Then Cantor Fitzgerald connection and bringing that amount of money and that liquidity that close to ground zero directly to the Fed. And let's just talk about bonds anyway. What are bonds? Bonds are debt. Bonds are debt, and they're tokenizing the debt, and they're putting it all on the ledger. That's what's happening. Everything runs on the ledger was my first video I ever made my whole life, right? And I've always believed that, and I've always believed that they would tokenize the debt. And when you always hear that clip of Evan Schwartz saying, all the money, right? I've never thought it was the pennies in your couch cushion, all the money. It's all the pairings of every valued thing that's been tokenized in the world. That's what it is, all of it. And when you're talking about bonds, you're talking about tokenizing the debt of the world and moving it onto this system. And it's happening right now. And it is absolutely groundbreaking. It's unbelievable, Alan.
It's not, very well said. It's the future of all building.
Yes.
The future digits.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people, when you go 40,000 feet on economics and the money structure system in which we all live in, people they can't understand what the euro dollar really means. And I'm just going to give a brief little synopsis here. The euro dollar is actually the US dollar being used in other nations when they borrow and trade with each other. You're still using the euro dollar,
Yep.
right? It's not the US dollar in sense, but it's liquidity out there. It's just like when I talk about when you go and spend your Visa card, that dollar didn't exist. It's now being created when you spend and use it. So all the new deals of the future, that has to continually increase. Because if you don't, you stagnate. So all new transactions going forward are going to be on blockchain. They're all going to be on X, Ripple X, and we all know that they're going to run on this. So if you know where they're going and you know what the numbers are, and they're astronomical, and they're never going to get smaller, they always have to get bigger. And the bond market is deciding, you know what? This is the tool. This is the tool we've always needed. The other thing is when you look at where they're going with this, let me just talk. When you look at the liquidity, and we use the word liquidity so freely, but liquidity is now going to come from not just the treasury. It's not just going to come from the euro dollar. It's going to come from RLUSD. It's going to come from everywhere. It's going to come from Bitcoin. It's going to come from Ethereum. It's going to come from people wanting, oh, well, I earned some money. I want to buy something. I want to create. And every time you purchase and every time that economy grows, it's purchasing something on blockchain. And I'm going very general here, but I want everybody to understand where we're at in time. Liquidity is going to come from everywhere, not just central banks, is my point. Yeah. Central banks are a key part of this, but you and I are commerce, okay? You're going to go play drums for my wedding for 2 hours, right? And hey, pay me an XRP. That created brand new transaction. Your labor created a brand new digit upon the face of the planet. That is what I want people to really wrap their heads around about how big this is. And now the grease for the wheel, the liquidity, is going to come from every labor hour moment of every man going for its time. And that is now being in denominations of crypto. And that is what people aren't yet. They're not there yet. You and I get it.
Yeah.
And the people in our space get it, and the great people of your channel understand this. But when everybody, because I don't know if you've noticed, there's been this real lackadaisical public interest in crypto, especially in the last 2, 3, 4 months. It's like the lull. But institutional and corporations, do you have any idea how big Cantor is? Do you have any? I mean, these companies are trillions of dollars, and they're kicking the door in, saying, "We're in, we're involved, we want part of this." And in fact, I know you talk about legislation and rules and regs and coming up and all that great stuff that you talk about. These people aren't even waiting for that.
That's right.
Trillions are coming, and they're not waiting because why? It's permissionless.
Yeah,
we don't need your damn permission.
Yeah,
we're going to do business.
Yeah, plus they want to be ready when the regulations hit, not regulations, and then we have to do all of those things. You know, they want to do all of those things, and then regulations hit. It's like, come on into business. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's unbelievable. You know, but I mean, you know, and to the point, to hammer home here even further, what you've made a great point about the bonds. You know, bonds are the backbone of a monetary system. You know, if people aren't buying your bonds, they're not believing in you and your debt and your promise of full faith and confidence to pay it back. And that's why we've seen companies and countries shedding their bond position in the U.S., right? So, you know, one of the conversations that took place in Bitcoin Nashville was the idea of either, as Donald Trump had said, getting a reserve. Now, he didn't call it a reserve asset. He just said stockpile Bitcoin like they do oil or gold at times, right? You know, and then it was introduced by Senator Lummis, an actual bill that would make Bitcoin a reserve asset, which is a little different than what Donald Trump had said. But nevertheless, for the conversation to be there, right? For that conversation to be there, and someone who is, quite honestly, probably the most likely to win the next election, telling you, you know, that at the very least, we should have this asset in holding, right? Even if it's not technically a reserve asset. Really I'll tell you what it triggered me to think. For one, I'm like, look, if anybody's talking about stockpiling, you know, a digital asset, then they know that this economy is about to go through a massive correction or a collapse. And you're going to need to bring everything to the party, including the kitchen sink. Hello, Bitcoin, right? And it's only 21 million, so they already knew they could inflate the price very quickly to support it. And then you have the narrative that supports that, which is Larry Fink from BlackRock, calling it and changing his position over the last several years to now it's a flight to quality, Alan. It's amazing.
And let's not, that's a perfect transition to let's not forget that he also said a tokenization of everything.
Everything.
And when you get that, that's that kind of big picture liquidity that I'm talking about. It's like, well, if you can tokenize something, right, and then somebody can actually buy it or use it or transact with it, as we know, XRP is going to be one of those things, one of many. But I think it's in the leading position for so many things. I got to change channels a little bit here. A lot of the Bitcoin maxis gave Trump a hard time for calling it crypto. But I don't know if you've noticed, but the man is not dumb. Right?
He used crypto
whether you
for
like
a
him
reason.
or not.
That's right.
That's right. And he called it crypto Bitcoin. Every time he said crypto Bitcoin.
That's right.
Crypto Bitcoin. He must have said that saying. He didn't ever just say Bitcoin.
I caught it too.
Yeah. And what that tells me and you and I is he sees the industry.
Yes.
And this industry is massive, Brad, as you and I know. I know the retail number isn't where everybody wants it to be, but this industry and the future of what it is so big that this man is standing back, hated it 4 years ago. He's standing back. That's, in my opinion, a sign of a good leader who can 4 years later, well, I was wrong about that.
Exactly.
Now, he's not very humble, as we all know, so he's not going to come out and say I was wrong about anything, probably, but he grew at least.
Yes.
And like most people, we all come to crypto at our own time and at our own pace. The beauty of what I noticed was if you think about this, how many conventions are going to be held? Okay, so January to the election. How many conventions are going to have 2 of the 3 presidential candidates speaking at the convention?
Exactly.
That's how big crypto got.
That's right.
2 of the presidential candidates, I don't care if you're in tech, textiles, gas, global energy, whatever. Do they have both those candidates there?
Nope.
We did. And I say we because he said crypto Bitcoin. It's not a Bitcoin show, guys. And it's bigger than Bitcoin, as I like to say.
I think you're making a fantastic point here. You know, I just literally yesterday evening, and I'll have that show coming out either later today or tomorrow, sat down with Perry and Boyne from the Digital Chamber. And I highlighted that same point about that language. It stuck out to me too. Every time he made sure he said crypto and Bitcoin, it was very, very target. You could tell he was absolutely specifically making sure he used that broad encompassing language. And I couldn't help but think that, you know, hey, I'm excited for the people in the Bitcoin world to hear this talk and a bill be introduced from Senator Lummis about reserve asset. And again, that tells me in my macro mind that, okay, this is how bad they believe things are going to get, that they need to bring in this flight to quality asset, which quite honestly, I've always believed was designed to serve as some kind of financial band-aid for a moment of transition like this. And that's why I thought we see the Bitcoin introduces ETFs first. It's like a beta test at how this digital asset works as a functioning regulated product that's offered to regular clients in the retail world. And now we're seeing the discussion of bringing this asset as a reserve asset. Hey, bring it. There's 21 million of it. I think a 3-letter agency created it too. But if BlackRock's going to have exposure to it, so's Bradley. That's how this is working, not financial advice, right?
I love when you say I stack my pennies against their whatever you call it, dollars. Yeah, I love it. Well, I know there's a lot of look. Let's just go back a little bit in time. They created the internet.
Yeah.
Right?
That's right.
They created the banking institutions, transaction. They created SWIFT. They created everything that you're playing around with now. So what are you going to do about it? Right?
Exactly. Nothing.
what I don't understand is when people look into the code and when they do everything like I did for 5 years to try and find a way that this is a Trojan horse. Okay, well, it's a little late to be a Trojan, I think, in my opinion.
Well, and I
There's
think
no value in it.
yeah, and I think
Yeah.
to the point that you're making about that, I think the Trojan horse to be found was that the narrative in the early days is that it's libertarian and that it can't be tracked and all of this, and as we know, it certainly can. So I think anything to be found about Bitcoin has been discovered, right? Which is it's a pseudonymous transaction, but it's attached to a wallet that's attached to a real human at some point. And people thought for the longest time that it just wasn't so, right? But it is, and it's a great tracking mechanism. But aside from that, I'm like, hey, let it run if they want to let it run. I just want to make sure that if I change my position and exposure to something like Bitcoin, it's because BlackRock and Fidelity have too, right? Because, I don't know. What I'm still not sure of is Bitcoin something they'll be done with after a financial collapse and correction, or will they decide to leave it as a lifelong product and industry because of the fact that there is only 21 million, and if a couple countries just buy enough of it, it's manipulated all day long market because it's only 21 million. You don't have to hold 21 million to manipulate that whole market every day, right?
No, well, no, of course not. But like, I get that argument, if you will. But where I really go to the next level is okay. Well, Bitcoin is Bitcoin, right? But we have these other really important coins, right? My favorite is XRP, other than Bitcoin. I love the both of them because I really feel like XRP is like the credit card and Bitcoin's bar gold. Yeah. It's kind of in a general how I look at it. Yeah. Like one is just going to move money all around the world. Bitcoin's probably never going to do that. That's right. It's pretty old and clunky for that, as we know. But what I like about where this whole thing is going is even BRICS, I don't know if you noticed, but 3 days after the convention, the Kremlin comes out and says, oh, we'll take Bitcoin. We like Bitcoin. We're in. Well, how many times has, China, Russia, and India flip-flopped? Now I'm going to go back to the Trump statement on crypto Bitcoin. Yeah. How many times have they flip-flopped? And now I'm hearing rumors that China's going to go back to mining. That's what I'm hearing. And I said to myself, what were they ever thinking? I did a show 3 years ago with my son in my garage, like the second show we ever did on my channel, that was like, China has lost their mind. What are they thinking? They had the dominant toy. I think they were running 60% of the mining of Bitcoin in the world, and they kicked it out the door. And I thought, what is it you people don't understand about this coin?
Well,
I didn't get it.
Well, it's so funny that you say that because, and shout out to Jimmy Valley for this, a brother from another mother there.
Love Jimmy.
Yeah, he's great. And, he's the one that tipped me off a few years ago. I think it was either they were BitDeer or Bitmain in China, and then they came here and became either Bitmain or BitDeer, whichever one it was. But they moved that largest Bitcoin mining facility from China to the United States. So Bitmain became BitDeer or however it was, or vice versa. But they brought it here. So the only thing they did is they said you can't mine in China. So they came here and used our power grid to mine the Bitcoin on our power grid. But what the funny thing is about that largest Bitcoin miner is every day they sell everything they mine. They don't hold anything for a long-term hold. Now, I find that to be, I'll let the people figure out whatever that means, right? But I just know that that's a pretty amazing thing, to understand that.
It is, but if you look at the way the whole thing was structured, it was structured to be that way. Yes. It's a company. And it runs on, okay, we took all this investment money, and the investment money was promised every 30 days payment. That's how it was structured. Yeah. So it wasn't structured like the way a government would do it.
Exactly. Yeah. So there's no long-term hold. They're rolling it over every night and going in the next day, right?
Well, here's an expansive thought. Think about this one now, Brad. Okay, it costs us what? 3 cents to print a $100 bill.
Okay.
The Treasury. Just print one on a paper, right? 3 cents. So let's use the number 60,000, right? So you need to print 60,000 $100 bills. That costs you 18 bucks. So they could buy with $100 bills a Bitcoin for 18 bucks.
Yeah.
The treasury could.
Yeah. How about
Think
that?
about that.
Well,
I mean, whoa,
well,
right? That's real math.
Yeah, that's real right now today. That's real math. That's badass
That's
right
real
there
math.
for 18
Yeah.
bucks. Yeah, it's good to be the king.
Why wouldn't you?
It's
Why wouldn't they do that?
Yeah, well, why wouldn't they do that? That's exactly right. Especially to buy enough to be able to look. Whoever controls what they say, 4 million. Whoever gets the country the fastest to 4 million is the one who's really got the arm of, you're controlling the market, right? It's at that point. So, but here's the thing that fascinates me here,
I don't
Alan.
like that argument much, but okay.
Well, I mean, you don't have to have the whole 100% supply to incur, just like a broker would do, right? Like dealers would come in, they're close to closing their quarter. If they need to be upside down or whatever, they would just sell
right.
and push the market a certain way, right, to get their numbers. But
Yeah.
but one of the things that's exciting to me is that hearing Bitcoin go from the libertarian movement to now government adoption is what we're really discussing, right? Which is massive. It gets me excited because I know where Ripple and XRP are positioned in this conversation. And, you need only to go to the board of directors to see Rosie Rios there, and all the other people from the Treasury have come through that camp. Some are there, some have moved on. Some are now the VP of the Federal Reserve Board of Governors helping to architect stablecoin legislation. And then we're looking at any second, they could be dropping the ruling from Judge Annalisa Torres right now. We're supposed to see the stablecoin launched by September 30th, give or take days or so, a few days here or there. The next 60 days are looking pretty hot here, Alan.
Oh, me. And, I have great comments. My phone has been blowing up since the Trump deal.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the people that I hang out with or know throughout my life has been pretty well off people. And most of them are in real estate, or banking or real estate that I know, whatever the reason is. That's a lot of wealth is there. So it takes a couple of bucks to buy a yacht,
Yeah.
But what I've noticed is all of them are asking me the same question. They used to just say, well, how much Bitcoin should I buy?
Yeah.
Now they're asking me, what coins should I buy?
Oh.
Never heard that sentence until now. But it's smart money. And what the smart money's starting to figure out is, well, this Bitcoin thing is pretty pricey.
Right.
Okay, I got to have an allocation to that. Okay, I want 1 or 2, 3, 5% of my portfolio should be allocated to this thing that countries. What's going to be interesting is what the Kremlin does with the coins in which they obtain. That's going to be, I know they just built, I don't know if I told you this before in the last show, but they just built the world's largest Bitcoin mining facility in the world.
Oh, wow.
They spent $1 billion on it.
Okay.
And that was last year. Okay. So what I'm noticing is people are headed, hey, Alan, what's the next coin? They're at the top level. They're already getting down the line to where they're seeing this as an industry, as we just talked about. But hands down, I tell all of them, don't mess with Ethereum. It's a waste of your time. Okay. In my opinion. You can go with whatever other coin you want, but if you simply have your accountant do a little bit of background research on what Ripple has done globally, I don't know if you just heard, but we're in 80 nations now. 80 nations. Like when I tell them that, they're like, well, what do you mean by in there? I like in their banking institutions, integrated in their systems in the background. We're not talking about just a poster on the wall. Hey, buy some XRP. Yeah. No. This is the future of banking and the way things are going to transact virtually free in a second. And I'm like, well, that might be important. You can see the light bulb go off as you're talking to these people. And I don't even know what an XRP is, but they do now. That's the coin, in my opinion. Okay. Obviously, one man's opinion. And like we said earlier in the show, I get a lot of stuff wrong. I really do. But that's the coin that's going to blow people's minds because when it starts to be used in the background, when nobody even knows that what it is and why it's there and how it's transacting, every institution in the world is going to know it before the public.
That's right.
The public is going to be the last one to the bag,
That's right.
and as we all know. And I truly believe when we can break 75 cents, 74 cents, it's not even going to slow down. And the dollar, I keep hearing people tell me, oh, it's going to stop at 90 again or a dollar. No, no, no. No, it's going to 30x, put it somewhere between 15 to $20. Because I do a lot of technical analysis for many years. That thing is not going to slow down until it's $15.
Wow.
And even then, it's just going to take a breather.
Right.
And like when I tell people that, and they're like, well, how much is it now? This is a couple of weeks ago. And they're like, oh, well, you can get two for a buck. And they're just looking at me like, what? What are you talking about? I said, well, there's 100 billion of them. They see 100 billion to wealthy people is like, oh, it's that small?
Yeah.
That's how they look at things.
Yeah.
You and I see 100 billion. Well, that's a stupid amount of coins. Like, where'd they come up with that number? It's too big. But the beauty is when I explain this to them. We have this thing called an escrow. And they're like, oh, what's that? And I go, what's like 40 plus billion of these coins, in which Ripple was smart enough to keep in their back pocket. Unlike all the other companies that could not see that they were going to need an escrow and they're going to need, hey, how do we get in that bank? How do we get in that door? How do we get in this country? Who is going to allow me to play on that monopoly board of money in the world? And you have to have that. And if you don't, they're not going to let you play on their game. And that's where we're at. And when I tell them that, they just go, oh, wow. Oh, they did. That was smart. I'm like, yeah. Was it ever?
I had a buddy, my buddy Kenrick, we were doing a walkthrough at XRP Las Vegas 24. And it was the night before the event started. And it was that calm before the storm. And you're seeing everything be set up. And it's like coming together. And he says to me something just like what you just said. He says, I talk to friends and people about XRP. And I try to tell him, he said, and the best thing I pretty much come up to tell him with is that it's not the game, it's not the players in the game, it's not the pieces. Ripple and XRP are the board that the game is played on. And it really is true. That network, that value protocol, and ultimately that decentralized exchange for the world that is going to be plugged into from every different value protocol and network to come, whether it's a legacy system or something that's new. It's all going to plug into there. And what a remarkable time to witness this. This is something you don't see for 4 or 5 lifetimes, what we're watching take place.
No. I thought Trump was very wise in using the steel reference.
Yes.
The U.S. steel industry.
100%.
It's big like that.
It is big.
It really
like
is.
It is life-changing. Yeah. It is our next industrial revolution. It's a technological revolution, and that's going to turn a lot of this country around. And I do believe, along with bringing the manufacturing back home, raising tariffs to level out the imports of what's coming in from other countries, and make ourselves competitive again, and give jobs to the people that live right here in our country instead of shipping them overseas. That's the way to get strong from within. And I look to see that in the future if we're going to have a chance to be a leader as a nation again.
Brought up such a great point, because getting industry back in the United States, what a lot of people don't realize when you look at the big economic picture of the things, what creates inflation, it is that. Believe it or not, you think, oh, well, I get to buy this Chinese goods so cheap. Well, it's going to be more expensive for me to buy something because there's tariffs on it. Well, yeah, for a little bit, until we start making it here. We start telling China, look, okay, you can sell your goods to Americans, but we want you to do it like what Japan did, which was bring Toyota companies here and build them here. That way you don't have to ship them. You can work with us, and that'll save you all this tariff. And when you understand that, the deflationary value, not just to them, but to the US citizen,
That's right.
because you don't have all that shipping cost on top of it, and you're putting Americans to work, even if they're robotic Americans, they're still putting labor, all those parts and all those materials have to be accumulated here in the US. So
No,
it's
it's 100% right, and we are at a very, very critical point in this country, and it's not just for distributed ledger technology, blockchain, digital assets alike, right? It is a much broader conversation. But Alan, this has been a great conversation, and we always look forward to you being on this show. I can't thank you enough for what you do for the community, sharing your insights. I know what it's like to be targeted, attacked, and all of those things, but you know what? A little price action will back some of that off of us. I'll tell you. So we just need to see that price move a little bit.
Just please. We were looking good a couple of days ago, and then, well, we got to slide back a bit.
Well,
it's a coiled spring. It's just getting tighter.
Absolutely,
yep.
Coiled spring. And I also want to say too that as nice as it is to see that price move, we all knew that nothing was moving that price, other than speculation about judgment in the case, right? So they're trying to front run that movement, and we didn't get it yet, but we know it's coming any day. And when we get that, and then the stable coin released, I think then hopefully legislation, whether it's by the end of the year as a saving grace, Hail Mary from this administration, or whether it's the next one, we're going to get it. And when we get it, none of this market belongs to any of us anymore, because it belongs to the institutions already. We just don't know it yet. And when they get in here, it's going to be us chasing the doggy's tail. And I hope everybody has had enough time to build a portfolio for themselves, because this is a rare moment to be able to front run Wall Street like this. Alan, thank you so much. Final thought?
Final thought. Oh, well, I can't top that. That's exactly it. Please, one of the things that after you've gone through a couple of bull runs, as I have, you sit back and you go, oh, well, gosh, had I only had this many more coins, my life would have been different. Like I'm just saying, we're in the lull.
Yeah.
We've had a blessing of years. And I'm not saying, mortgage the kids. What I'm saying is, do your best to not be complacent on the stack in which you have today, because this is not a maybe any longer. Two presidential candidates getting up there and telling you exactly what your future is pretty obvious what's about to occur. So, and you were smart enough to buy XRP, it sounds like, if you're on this channel or my channel, and it's probably in particular funds are a little tight. It might be a little late for you to buy some Bitcoin, but that might not be a bad idea once you do pretty well with some XRP. Anyway, not legal or financial advice. I think you're in the right space. You're listening to the right people, and you're listening to the people that care about your future. And Brad and I were talking before the cameras came on, which is, isn't it amazing how many people I get to meet, and now I consider my brother, my friends, my family, and we all have one objective, and that is betterment for all mankind.
Yeah, so
and I think crypto will take us there.
So well said.
I really do.
Please tell everybody where they can find you, Alan, on YouTube and on your social media.
You can find me on The Staple Crew and also thestaplecrew.info are my two best places to get a hold of me. I'm also on Twitter, a little less of a presence there as it takes too much of my day, but it is a great source of information. So
no doubt about it. Alan Staple, thank you so much, man. Always a pleasure to sit down with you. Don't go anywhere, ladies and gentlemen. We will be back with the next one.